What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of AJ Porter Golf. This week we have a really exciting guest on, Ryan Sullivan. So he's played in the 2013 and 2019 U.S. Opens. He's currently playing Stage 2 qualifying for the Korn Ferry / PGA Tour. This episode was really fun to film, man. Ryan is of course a good player, but he's also just a good dude. You know, it was just a really good conversation. I really enjoyed this chat, and the level of autonomy that he has over his own game is something that, at least I'm striving for in mine. So, we sat down to discuss Q School, US Opens, and of course, what's the difference. We were building off last week's guest, Scott Fawcett, who mentioned his big three difference makers: 180 ball speed, excellent lag putting, and that you must meditate. Stay tuned to see how this list grows as we figure out what makes the difference. Also, just a quick shout out to both of our sponsors. For me, it's Summit Rejuvenation, Renew Med Spa, and Strokes Gained Electrolytes. And for Ryan, it's Life Cider Drinks, Razor Max Marketing, and Swannies. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know I did. Yo.
Oh,
What's up, bro?
a lot's transpired since our failed earlier attempt.
Yeah? What's going on?
No, I got some work in today at the club, and it was cold. I think that Arctic blast across the country is hitting pretty much everywhere except maybe California.
Bro, we got like 5 inches of snow up here this afternoon.
That's pretty rare, huh, for slew?
Yeah, it's not ideal. I know. I was thinking about this today. I was like, dude, Ryan's down there playing golf right now, and it's snowing. So
Yeah,
pretty.
I texted my buddy Luke Snyder, Ollie's younger brother. He's in Kinderloo, and
Mm,
I was asking him what the weather was, and I think he said it's like almost identical to where I'm at. It was like low 50s with sun, but it was kind of chilly because of the wind. So you still kind of needed to like borderline rock a beanie and long sleeves and stuff. But it'll if it gets as low as they're projecting, like we'll probably have frost delays in the morning.
yeah, and I feel like that's a little bit difficult for you too if you're not used to playing in that, and the ball's not gonna fly, and like trying to figure out your numbers. You struggle with that
I
at all?
think at this point everybody's like dealt with it. I don't know if used to it necessarily, but
Yeah.
it's kind of just one of those deals. Like I hope that the tour will set the course up accordingly. Like I don't know what the wind. I haven't really looked at the wind projections yet, but there's some holes out there. Like there was a par five that was 700 yards, and I'm wearing
Saw
all
that.
years, so it is what it is. Everybody's got to deal with it.
Yeah, no, I saw that. I was looking at the scorecard. I mean, it looks like you guys are playing it pretty deep. Are you playing it? What's on the website basically, like 7,600?
Luke, I was in Atlanta yesterday with the Snides, and he's been here the last 2 years. I think that he said they did try to make it pretty deep, but nothing like, I'd say anywhere from 73 to 75. I don't know. I mean, maybe they tip us out. Maybe they just go full like suit greenskeeper revenge on us and make it hard as possible. But, like I said,
It doesn't make sense. I don't know. For some
I
for
think
something
I
like
think
this.
with the forecast like it is and the ball it's not going to be flying, like it wouldn't really make a lot of sense to tip us like tip. I saw like Kinderloo is really long. The one in Florida this year is like the longest course in the state. That's like 78 or 9 tipped out. I walked 9 holes this summer just to see it, and it was like no thank you.
Interesting. Yeah, so that's interesting. So I had Scott Fawcett on from Decade. I don't know if you know who he is or not,
Yeah,
but
I made that hole in one at Good playing with him and Mark Baldwin.
oh, okay. So yeah, so you know exactly who he is. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He's actually a really good player too.
Very good player. Yeah, we were talking about he's going to second stage a Champions Tour Q School on Tuesday. So we were just
Okay.
talking about that and talking about that a little bit. But uh
I wouldn't be surprised if he got through. I mean, that's probably the hardest Q school of anyone, because they only dish out like 5 full.
five, yeah.
Um, I'm good friends with Tim O'Neill, and he just won recently. He's a career grinder, and um, it was cool to just see Tim get his card, because I think getting your card is the hard part, like if you get out there and you get a full season with, multiple starts, that's way more, feasible, like probable to have success than to just like kind of do what I was doing this year. We'll get into it here in a little bit, but
Yeah.
Mondaying in and trying to catch fire, catch lightning in a bottle in that 1 week.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that was the other thing we talked about. So I don't know. There's a guy here in town that I know named Chris Nagel who's
I
Mondayed in.
know Chris.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good dude. So he's Mondayed into a bunch of stuff, and I had I was following him around one time. He's playing with one of my buddies, and I was talking to him like, so do you do anything different? And I'll ask you the same thing. Like, do you do anything different on Mondays in terms of strategy and mindset and whatever else? Like, obviously you kind of have to, but it's I feel like it's a fine line where you can't go out and force it, but you also have to like get after it. So I don't
Yeah.
know if you change
And
anything.
I would say yes and no. I think it's like anything, you try to pick and choose your spots, right? Like where to be aggressive. Like there's gonna be, Scott Fawcett might say you've got like six medium, six hard, six easy type thing. And on those easy ones, you definitely want to be like mucho aggressive. And then
Yeah.
the hard ones, you want to kind of have more yellow light, red light. I don't um I don't I don't personally do the decade, but like I'm familiar
Yeah.
with the background of it. Um, I would say when you're teeing off in the afternoon, right? And let's say it's four spots that are allocated, and you know that the number is going to take seven or eight. It's everything in a Monday is situational, right? So if like you come out of the gate slow and it doesn't serve you any purpose unless you're just out there getting reps, like to go out and shoot two under, you have to take chances to qualify. So sometimes the scores could be misleading, right? If you've got like sponsors or people that are following you back home or watching virtually and they see, man, like you made a double bogey on that par five, you should have laid up. It's like, well, no, because if I lay up and make birdie when I need eagle, it doesn't get me in. I miss by one or I miss by two, right? So I think guys like Chris Nagel and Fawcett and myself, like we understand the idiosyncrasies of Mondaying versus like if you get a 4 day tournament stroke play with cut, you don't necessarily have to take those risks on Thursday, Friday, like you would on a Monday qualifier when you only have a few spots up for grabs.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's really difficult, especially in what I had been following you this year. I mean, we'll get into a little bit here, but from what I've seen, had a lot of really good freaking golf this year, man. A lot
Yeah.
of really close misses. It looked like every time I was checking the scores, I mean, you were either in or you were out by like one, like four or
One or
five in a
two.
row
I
was
think I
something.
played 16 tour qualifiers between PGA and Korn, and I was 64 under par, and I missed 9 or 10 times by one or two. I mean, it's like weird because like basically being the bubble boy, I I obviously was really frustrated. Like it gets to a point where you're like numb, but I would still rather play good golf, right? Because like heading into a week like second stage, exactly like I was just talking about, I've got 4 days now to put that consistency up versus just like the one round shootout. So my good consistent play, I think I averaged like 4.4 under par. I mean, that's maybe not Scotty Scheffler, but if I were to hypothetically have played a full season on tour, I
Yeah,
would
you
have
can
probably had
keep
a
it
six or
hard.
$7 million year.
Yeah.
With that scoring average, obviously there's other factors that go into it, but
Oh,
um,
even 69 and a half scoring average, you're making money. I mean, what's the break even point? They say 70 or 70 and a half, you make money anywhere in the world. Like 70
oh
or something like
yeah,
that.
for
Yeah.
sure. I I was obviously playing really good golf all year, consistent, and it's almost mathematically absurd that I didn't break through one time, but it's a testament to how oversaturated the pro golf scene is, right? There's so many good players, and I don't think I've had a season in my career where I haven't at least played one tour event like on the web or the Korn Ferry. So
Yeah.
It was like weird feeling like I improved my game and my scoring, but like didn't get that, you know, that reward of at least getting to play in a tournament and then, potentially spin it up into more starts.
Right. What's, for this year, what would you say you attribute your success to? Because even though it probably feels like it maybe wasn't a success, I mean, 64 under par, whatever, 68 scoring average is dirty. So
No, yeah. I mean, I had
what
one
would you say?
tournament. I think I had one Monday where I shot one over. That was in Knoxville. And again,
Yeah.
it's a little situational, right? Like,
Yeah.
you got to press when things aren't going quite how they should be at the turn. But about a year and change ago, I switched to Lab. I used that I had never used a broom before, but I've kind of battled at times with the Ginzies on the greens and different grips. Like I had done claw grip for the last 4 years. And it was weird too because I would putt well at times. Like I played the U.S. Open at Pebble Beach
Yeah.
in 19 on Poana greens, and I rolled it great, and then I could go play a G Pro tour event or a Monday and like have the yips at times, and it's crazy. I would actually shoot like there's been multiple times where I would legit shoot 5, 6 under par and miss by one, and I missed like four putts inside 4 feet that round, So like trunk slamming and driving away is so disheartening because there wasn't a whole lot more I could have done from a
Mhm.
ball striking perspective. It was pretty blaringly obvious that the putting was killing me. And I think like for a lot of good ball strikers that struggle with that aspect, it becomes so obvious that it can become even more mental, right? Because you
Yeah.
want it so bad to get better that when you do find yourself hitting it close, it's almost like extra pressure to like make it. And it doesn't, you kind of lose sight of like, all right, let's just do a good routine and put a good stroke on it versus like make or miss. Because if you've played this game long enough, you know that there's a lot of times where you put good strokes on it and you just get the rub of the green or, and then there's times where maybe you don't put a good stroke and it goes in. So it's
Yeah.
not always a direct correlation, but switching to Sam's company at Lab has been very instrumental. I knew right away that it was going to make a really big difference in my game. And, I'm not on their staff, but I was just like so over the moon to be able to feel like I could not have to worry about my stroke, just go out there and read the green. I'm a good green reader. And I'm actually a good putter, I needed to switch it up and, it gets pretty tiring when you're missing putts and giving strokes away to the field.
Yeah, no, I think that's awesome, man. I think it's funny how many guys are switching to the labs. Like I feel like everyone is switching to the labs at this point.
Yeah.
That's kind of the
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you don't see a guy putting with a broom, and he didn't just start that way, most likely, right? It's like there's
yeah.
been some PTSD trauma, and like Lucas Glover was obvious poster child for that, and I think seeing his story kind of opened my eyes to it because he even said if he didn't do something, whether it was that or go left-handed, he was going to give up the game, and that's such a
Wow.
tragedy because of a guy that's such a good ball striker like him. And it obviously, uh, put his career back on track.
Yeah, no, that actually did not even know that he was gonna give up the game. Obviously, I'd seen his resurgence last year, but that's pretty cool, man.
Mhm.
Um, in terms of practice and stuff like that, you change anything at all? Mindset, mental, visualization, or is it literally just you picked up the putter and it's like, man, this thing's I can just go.
Yeah, I was playing a tournament, a mini tournament, G Pro Gary Hawes tour in South Carolina. And it was one of those rounds, the first round where I played really nice, like missed one green and shot 4 under, which is a good score, but I putted like Stevie Wonder. And I'm like, all right. And the putter was back home. So I literally had my dad meet me halfway and I put it in play the next round.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like I filled it up necessarily, but I knew pretty much right away that it just felt more stable.
Hmm.
And um I went to first stage last year on greens back in North Carolina that are really fast and tricky. And I had 25 putts each round the first 3 days. And it was like all right, like this is different, you know? Like I don't have to rely on really good ball striking. I can have like mediocre days and still be relevant. So, you
It's a
know,
game changer mentally. I feel like that's got to be like a total game changer mentally.
yeah, like I still obviously have had tournaments this year where I haven't putted great, but I didn't feel like it was because of like stroke. It was more of just putts weren't dropping, and I can live with that. It's just really aggravating when, you know, you feel like you know the read of the green and you can't start it online, you
Yeah.
know?
Do you use any sort of green reading method, or you pretty much just use it with your eyes? You aim point.
No, I just kind of use I feel it in my feet.
Yeah.
And like I said, I feel like I've been a pretty good green reader. You know, even when I was putting conventionally, I've led the field in putting at times in events on the Korn Ferry Tour. So I think that, like, in a weird way, there's some hesitancy to switch to the broom at like throughout my career because, like, as a optimist, you want to see, you know, it's almost like being in a toxic relationship. It's like you think about the good times and you don't want to break up with her, but you know that it's leading down a dead end
Yeah.
and better to just deviate. So
Just cut it.
finally, you know, I finally cut the cord with the short putter, and I don't see myself going back.
Yeah, no, it's been cool to see, like, 'cause obviously I've met some of you guys and follow a lot of the Mondays and stuff, and just seeing all the scores you've played this year. So I'm glad to see. I know you probably don't feel like it's been a success, but 68 scoring average is
Yeah, it's weird feeling
ridiculous,
like you
dude.
put a lot of work in and you put up great scores and your bank account goes down, down, down. And, you
Yeah.
know, it's hard to detach from, you know, that mindset of like, there's not a direct correlation in pro golf from playing well and bank account always at this level, at least, right? When you're trying to get your tour card or
Yeah.
you're trying to get starts, you're obviously investing into, you know, chasing these Mondays. And there's obviously different routes. Like I've played in Latin America. I actually won my first Latin American event I played years back. And that's, you know, obviously a pretty popular route for guys to take. But for me, I think it's more of like if you're over 25 or 26, you obviously know how to handle travel and you don't really need that experience. And if you've got unlimited funds, you know, it's great. But like that's been a huge complaint with guys for a long time is like you're allocating all this money now, obviously, that you had in operating reserves to the PGA Tour and Champions Tour, yada yada, and you can't pay guys out better on, you know, the subsidy tours. And it's just really hard to go play good golf for a season and finish 25th and break even, right? Just to skip first stage of Q school. I, I've
I
I've been fortunate. Like I think I've only missed first stage one time in 12 tries. So like I feel confident that I can get past first and not have to rely, not that the guys that go down there use that as their main objective, but you
yeah.
know, that's kind of like one of the tours like caveats to spin the Americas tour is like, you know, you get to have this bonus, you know, if you finish top 25, but you know, if you don't really win the tour or finish top five, there's really not a lot of merit to going.
I was playing a practice round, I think this year or last year with Dylan Meyer. I don't know if I assume you
Oh,
know
yeah,
him.
yeah, good player.
Great player. I think I want to tell me I want to say he told me he finished fifth or something on the Canadian Tour money list and made $5,000 on the year. And
Yeah, and I guarantee you he wasn't staying at Ritz-Carlton's either, you know, it's
no, but that's ridiculous, man. Like, so for me personally, like I've been trying to find a way to get back to it. My scoring average this year was like 72 in tournaments, so I'm nowhere near good enough, right? Like you and I are minimum 4 shots apart around. Like it's light years at this level. But I've been running some numbers and looking at things. Why don't more guys go to Europe? Like it's so much cheaper. I know obviously you have to do accommodation, whatever, but like Q school for Europe, for example, $2,500, whereas what you're going through is like 15 grand. And then I know there's like a lot of different travel expenditures and all that sort of a thing, but like are you
yeah.
seeing any guys go over to Europe at all, or is that
I
changing?
am. I think it's becoming more. popular. Like I actually for the first time seriously looked at going this year. The big expense is really airfare
Yeah.
getting over there. But another like hidden expense for me is like I don't have connections over in Europe. So like when I'm traveling to different cities in America, I have a lot of connections and people I know that can help out with lodging and
Yeah.
um, it definitely, it's all about expediting the process. So like if going to Europe expedites, then that's a sacrifice I think a lot of guys are definitely willing to make. They used to have PGA Tour China,
Yeah.
which of the three tours on that umbrella with Latin and Canada, that was probably the best one to do in terms of ROI and field depth. But the main, elephant in the room is it's China and you have to travel a long way and you have to be in a completely different culture and the cuisine. Like there's just a lot of moving parts and logistics that I think creates hesitancy for a lot of guys.
Yeah, no, I think the China one's an interesting one because I mean back in the day, obviously he's huge now, but like I used to follow and talk with Luke Kwan a decent amount,
I know Luke.
and he had done it over there. Obviously, he's blown up and massive and on
I
good
think he
good.
top fived on the
He
on the
did, yeah,
money list one year, right? And got his web corn card that
yeah,
way.
yeah.
So he can obviously play.
Yeah. So he's a stick, man. All right, so going back to Q school in prep and stuff like that, one of the things that Scott Fawcett was talking about a lot is pretty much he thinks, in his opinion, I'm curious to get your take on this. Pretty much anybody who's going to get their card and make money at a professional level needs to be hanging around the 180 ball speed number. You feel there's some validity to that, or you think guys below that can still get it done?
You're saying you need to be around that number if you're going to what?
If you're gonna basically make a career out of it. Like his whole thing was if you're gonna
I
make a career
mean,
out of it, you need to be
I think the needle is definitely moving. Like obviously Scott is more of a analytics and stat guy than most people, right? Like
yeah,
I would say I'm more on the less end of that. Like I would rather go test out another buddy like tour players clubs and find a club that I like that way than to go get fit at Club Champion or, even at like the Kingdom or in Oceanside. It's like I was just in Atlanta and my 3-wood cracked recently and Ollie Snyderjans gave me some stuff to go try out yesterday and I found a shaft that works great. And just by doing the eye test and the, outdoor hitting it, I know that it works. So I don't need to get the numbers on TrackMan, but not saying that you shouldn't. It's just there's different ways to skin a cat. And back to your original question, I know, and Scott would definitely know that the average tour club head speed has swing speeds probably eclipsed 116 now for the first time. And uh, I have just started, really starting to notice that these guys bomb it, and I need to do some speed training this winter after Q school because when I first got out there, I was probably 115, 117, and I was like way longer than average, especially for being
really.
a smaller guy. And
Yeah.
then I've never really done, I mean, I do gym and trying to stay elastic, but I don't specifically train for speed. And I've probably lost a few miles an hour on my club head speed. So that's something I would like to, try to catch back up to at least 116 going into next year. And it would be huge, right? Because like Scott would say, the shorter clubs you have in, it's just math, like probability, your proximity of the hole is going to be tighter on average and all that jazz. Like I'm giving up 20, 30 yards to some of these guys. And it used to be like a select few. Now it's like there's a good amount of guys, right, that are coming out here just Gordon Sargent slinging it. And
Yeah.
if they have a good day with their wedge and putter, it's like math. It's going to be really hard to beat a guy that's got 12 looks inside of 15 feet and he's got a hot putter.
Yeah. Yeah, I played this year with a guy named Sam Murphy, who you probably know as well from being out
Yep.
there. Yeah, I mean, I'm around 114-ish, and I mean, he knocked it probably 30, 40 by me, missed every putt and shot 66. Or looked like he missed every putt and shot 66. So that to me was pretty crazy. Like I've tried some speed training, man. I feel like for whatever reason I'm just kind of stuck at like 114 to 116 like full tilt. But
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know if you'll find this winter, and I'll be interested to kind of hear back from you again. But I almost feel like my swing gets longer and my mechanics get like super sloppy anytime I try and like really add speed and like do
Yeah.
speed training in particular. So
I think that was what was interesting about DeChambino going on his speed mission is he seemed to almost get more accurate, which
he
is
did. Yeah.
like that was fun to watch. I think not to kind of rear off topic, but I think the tour is missing the boat with the ball rollback because if a guy puts in the work, right, he should be rewarded. And if we were to go watch Wimbledon and we were recreational tennis players, we don't want to see, Nadal and Federer playing with like limited flight, limited speed tennis balls. It's just that's the cool part about golf is these golfers who play for fun and they can go out and watch us do some really cool things with the exact same equipment. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, like if I were to be able to gain speed and not lose accuracy, that would be phenomenal. That's kind of I don't really want to sacrifice accuracy just to chase 10 extra yards or 15.
Yeah, I think obviously there's math involved, but I kind of feel like there's also a diminishing point of returns whenever it comes to like I don't know. You've probably been hitting the same number for quite a while. So like kind of your off speed, like chippy ones with irons and flighted shots and different things. Like I feel like that feels gotta unless you're super like Bryson and doing a clock method, I gotta feel like at least for me, whenever I've tried to gain speed, the clock method or like the feels on the half speed shots are tough to come back because it feels like you're hitting further or like shorter or like I don't
And
know.
I already have a John Rahm swing, like
Yeah,
short.
you do. Yeah. Yeah.
So for me, like I feel like just by design, I mean, obviously Rahm's probably really long, but and Final's also long, but if in
Those are
theory,
anomalies though, yeah.
yeah, anomalies, like if you have a shorter swing, less wind up, it would make sense that you probably don't hit it as far.
Yeah, but
So
you hit it more accurate. Like what I've been working on with my coach is arm structure being shorter, and I've noticed how much straighter I hit it. Like I feel like there's a lot of value in that. But anyways, get back to what you were saying about the golf ball. Totally agree. I really don't know why they're trying to do that. It
yeah,
seems a little silly.
I just think the quality of players are a lot better now,
Yeah.
and you see it. They put them on. I think is it Kapalua? What's like one of those early tournaments of the year in Hawaii? The golf course is stupid long, and they're going out there and they're still shooting 30 under par.
Right.
So there's not necessarily a direct correlation to distance and scoring. Now, I do think it's easier to go out and shoot 65 on a 6,500-yard golf course versus a 7,500-yard golf course. But
Yeah.
there's plenty of courses I've played and tournaments I've played where golf course is actually short, but the rough is up, the greens are firm, the greens have some undulations in them, and the golf course play is like really tricky. It takes driver out of your hand, and you got to go and play chess instead of just teeing it up and trying to swing it as hard as you can. Like I don't think the founding fathers of golf had that in mind of trying to just blast off and hit it into an open field and be able to just wedge it everywhere. But that's kind of what the Korn Ferry Tour has turned into, and I think that's why you're seeing these numbers go up on the averages.
Yeah, that's kind of Chris Nagel was telling me literally the exact same thing that you said that it's kind of turning into that when you talk about having to maneuver it around, I was just thinking about have you ever gone up and played the Nebraska Open up at the Elks golf course up there?
Yeah, one time. Yeah, I
That
did.
course is that course is exactly what I'm thinking of whenever you say that. It's like super tight and goofy and the greens are like this big around and
Yeah, my buddy Nick Mason, who caddies out on tour, he's a really good player. He's not playing much anymore, obviously, but I think he won that a couple times, and I love seeing that type of player like Nick be able to thrive, where you've got to really almost like shape your driver just to fit the firm
mhm,
fairway,
yeah.
and that's a good example for a golf course that demands precision versus just, headlessly teeing it up and trying to hit it 185 miles an hour with your ball speed.
Right. Right. So back to Q school. Obviously, you're there now. You're in a hotel. Take us through, for you personally, what you do, getting prepared. What work are you doing? How are you assessing the golf course? What
Sure.
kind are you doing anything mentally?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of subtleties, right, that people don't understand that we have to go through in terms of like if you're traveling and playing all these different courses all over the place, there's different grasses, there's different so many different conditions and weather conditions that can, you could play the same golf course back to back weeks and just because of the weather conditions, it plays completely different, right? Like guys are changing out. I don't personally change out equipment that much, right? Like I'm not changing different wedges and bounces and stuff. I kind of more middle of the road on my bounces and all that, but
Yeah.
trust my lab putter. But yeah, like this week it's kind of a Bermuda style golf course that's long. So, the next 2 days I'm gonna play probably 9 holes each day, or maybe go 18 tomorrow, 9 on Monday. The tournament starts Tuesday, and just kind of treat it like, you want to obviously get familiar with your surroundings, but you also want to kind of simulate like a comfortable setting, like you're back home, right? So I would say treat it like it's an SAT. There's no point in cramming and going on this like bender of like over practicing. It's more of like, look, we trust the work that you've put in all year and know that your game's there and go do like it's a normal tournament, nothing anything extra. Because I think that's where you can lose sight. I've done it before where I qualified for the US Open at Marion in
Yeah.
13. And I was obviously like young, fresh out of college, and I was more worried about what the guy on the Konica Biz Hub Minolta was going to say about my swing, and I'm trying to work on like aesthetics of my swing before the tournament, which was just so ridiculous because I'd obviously had something going working for me to just qualify, and then when I got out there in that arena, I wasn't comfortable because I had never played, in that type of environment, and I'm also trying to work on swing changes that it just couldn't have been a worse decision for me, but it's a learning curve too. So you know
I'd like to sit on that for a minute because I have definitely experienced that. What was kind of the light bulb moment for you that it's like, dude, like I'm good enough. I've been like clearly I'm good enough to be here. Like let's stop messing around with aesthetics. Like let's do what got me here. Was it just immediately after that tournament, or did it take you a little while to be like, dude, you're just being dumb?
still took me a while. Like it was during COVID 2020. I was living Jacksonville and I would play out at Stadium Course a lot. And Fred Funk had these like COVID games where if you had status, you could play. It was like a 2 day tournament. Everybody puts like 400 in the pot. And if you had a card, right, like Champions, PGA, Web, you could play. And it was amazing, right? Because it was like playing in like a top 10 course in the country with no one else there except for other tour players in the middle of a apocalypse. And I had gotten to know Fred really well, and he was telling me that he had never had a lesson, which is wild. And I'm like, I've like it's difficult because you want to like be proactive and always strive to improve, and not saying I'm anti working with somebody, but a lot of times it's difficult, and in fairness to these big time instructors, it's not really fair to just show up. They've never seen you before. They've got packed schedules and they're going to look at you for an hour, right? And you're expecting them to tell you some secret sauce, and maybe they give you a good direction to go towards, but it's hard to get back in with them, so you feel like you don't get value from it, right? And I think for me, I found that it this guy right here, myself, knows my swing the best, and I just kind of have to police it. Now sometimes it's good to ask your contemporaries where your ball position is, or do some video down the line face on and see where you're at, but for the most part I've really kind of come into my own the last year and a half with like getting my ball striking back from like just trusting my feels and doing, what works for me. And, I'm always like making small tweaks, but I think that I'm past the point of like thinking I need to like make my swing look a certain way, or, get my club in a certain position. It's just when you get under the gun, man, like you're just gonna revert back to like where it is, and it's
Yeah.
really difficult to swing like Adam Scott and make it repeat like that.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting, man, because that's really something that I've personally struggled with, because it's like, I mean, if you saw my swing on camera, like I've got a great golf swing, but like it's not real functional. Like if it's you I say this tongue in cheek, but like you put me under the gun, I win off the right and I can't miss left. Like I'm probably gonna block it off the planet to the right. I'm not gonna be able to cut it back up into the wind and have a good shot. Like I watched you hit. I remember watching you hit it probably hole 6 or 7 when you were trying to win out there at St. Albans the first time I met you, and you hit this
Yeah.
shot to this back left pin, went off the right, and you just cut it up in there like super nice. Like
Yeah.
that's the kind of shot that you have to be able to have, and I think it's really tough, at least for a long time. Like I've made some serious swing changes. It's really tough to even know where the club face is, if that makes sense.
No
Like it
doubt.
just you just like lose sight of like where the club face is.
I think Tiger alluded to it in the past about like you need to like grind it in on the range, right? Get it there, and then work it into your like playing of recreational rounds or money games, and then the final step is doing it in tournaments. It's like not really realistic to just have an idea or watch a video on YouTube and then go out there under the gun and expect it to be grooved. It's gonna take time. And yeah, like it's a fickle game, man, because like one minute you feel like you got it, and then the next minute you feel like a 5 handicap at times. Just
Yeah.
little things like sequencing, or something ball position can just offset the whole recipe.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. I don't know if you find the same too, but I find it with equipment now that I hadn't made changes to my equipment in quite a while, but I made some equipment tweaks and I got fit at like a club champion, right? And the
Yeah.
numbers were perfect and it was great. I go out there, it was a 3 iron. I go out there first round and it launches in a tournament, launches up here, and I'm just like, yeah, no, like that's going out of my bag. Like it's so interesting how different it is. Like I end up having some 100 gram TX shaft in there now that just stays on the planet. Like it's not optimal. It's not like perfect. It's not pretty, but I know it's not gonna miss a fairway. And it's kind
Yeah.
of weird how like that's sort of a thing that I feel like most people don't think about, at least for me.
Yeah, sometimes the math ain't math, and I was hitting, top rocks on the driving range with a new 3 wood that came in, and the flight was great. And then I took it out on the course with Pro Vs, and all of a sudden it's high and spinny, and you're like, wow, like, but that's why you put the work in, right? Like getting work in on the range is great, but there's no substitute for going out on a golf course and getting different lies and different conditions and simulating tournament, aesthetics
Yeah,
versus just posting up on a driving range for
yeah,
hours.
cool. And I want to be, obviously conscious of your time here. I don't know what you have going on the rest of the afternoon, but or rest of the evening, sorry. But one of the
I'm
questions
just
that
gonna go to the gym and try to get a lot stronger so I can keep up with these 22-year-olds
you
hitting
should,
it
man.
30
You
yards
should
by me.
get jacked. Uh, so couple questions to wrap up. One, what do you do in the gym? What's that look like for you? You said to stay loose and stay supple, stay mobile. What
Right.
what do you do
I have
there?
like it's like a mix of cardio with some weightlifting and core work. I've tried to be a sponge, right? So I've been fortunate to be around some high level experts over the years, and I still utilize some of the stuff from my strength and conditioning coach in college in my routine, right? Like some of these TPI type stuff. And then
Hmm.
I would like to actually get better at implementing more of the TPI style things of, I think one year we were in Myrtle Beach for a college event, and like Randy Myers had just come out with the stretch pole. I actually still have that thing in my trunk. I don't maybe use it enough, but he was showing us exercises of like, um, who's Lumpy? You know who that is on Champions Tour? Tim Herron. Like a guy like Tim Herron who's clearly out of shape. He smokes cigarettes and drinks alcohol and probably eats a pint of ice cream a night. And he's just crazy flexible. And he's showing us different exercises that like Lumpy could do that I couldn't do. And I weigh 165 and I'm like, in shape. So I think there's some guys that are just limber like John Daly and lumpy that it's hard to pull fat, or that's what he said, like about why
Yeah.
he's had longevity. But for the majority of us, I think even for guys that are in shape, it's imperative that you, for your long-term golf goals, be able to stay supple and not get too one-sided. Like I think you want to stay strong, but you don't want to lose your elasticity. That's where some of these guys are really long, that don't look like they would be because they're able to create that whip.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's great. That's exactly what I'm working on right now too. I suck at mobility, especially like ankle mobility and hip, like internal, like external rotation. I don't know. Lance Gill is a TPI guy that I got to spend a bit of time with, and he basically walked me through how much I suck. So
Yeah, it's pretty humbling when
yeah.
I got a buddy Fielding Brubaker down in St. Pete that I played
Mhm.
a lot of golf against in minis and stuff, and he's the director of instruction at a Pasadena yacht club, and he kind of had me for an hour doing some TPI, running it, and I was like, I know I'm probably not going to be where I need to be, and it's definitely humbling when he has you do some exercises that just make you feel like you're a geriatric. So,
Yeah.
there's
Yes. It
always
sucks.
room for improvement. But even with that said, like, um, I still think that it's good to not get carried away with trying to be too mechanical or too like gym oriented. Like that's fantastic for personal health that you're hypothetically understood you like gym oriented and wanting to like look great and feel great. But like you could live in the gym all day, but that's not going to create a great golf game necessarily. So at the end of the day, like having good short game and putting is so imperative, fundamental for any level of competitive golfer. And then from there, it's nice to have the length, but at the end of the day, there's a reason why there's Brendan Todd's and shorter hitters, Peter Malnati's, that keep their card year in and year out and are probably top 50 in the world because they can get the ball in the hole
Mhm.
faster than other people because they're sharp in those areas.
So the ultimate question of the series is what's the difference, right? So what's the difference between all these kind of players? If you could kind of distill, and I know you did it a little bit there, but if you could kind of distill, in your opinion, what the difference is, one, maybe guys who are out there on the mini tours for a while and they just kind of run out of funds and they can't make a living out of it. That's maybe one part. And then other parts, it's, guys that get better and then guys that don't. What would you think would be kind of maybe some intangibles or pieces that you feel like really make the difference in your world?
Well, I mean, it's not so much luck. I mean, there is some luck involved, but like playing well at the right time. Like I feel like for me, my games is rounding into form at the right time. Like I've played fairly consistent all year in the tour quals and stuff, but right now the game feels really good.
Yeah,
And I played a lot of golf tournaments with Ryan Cole, and he's a guy who is like undoubtedly one of the best players in the country. He's been so consistent, leading the money list, points list or whatever on the G Pro Tour. And I played with him at first stage one of the days, and just so impressive to watch him take care of business and be very
yeah,
professional. And he's a great guy. And then I don't know that he's ever gotten to final stage of Q school, and he just missed in Savannah. And it's just crazy. I think he shot 8 under and the number was 12. So it's not like he played bad. He just didn't quite, do enough.
yeah,
And there's a guy that if you give him a full season on the Korn Ferry Tour, I would I would put my money on him finishing in the top 30 and getting a tour card, but it's so finite, the difference between somebody like Ryan Cole not getting through, and then, not a knock on anybody else, but there's plenty of guys that are maybe not as proven that are gonna, skate through barely and get to finals. And you got a guy like Ryan Cole that's sitting at home like, well, damn, I beat that guy all year long. And,
Right.
I just didn't quite have it at second stage. And now that guy, he might go on and make it on the PGA Tour or the Korn Ferry Tour and have a, lucrative season. And I see that all the time. I know a lot of guys, a lot of buddies that are on the PGA Tour that have 5 to 10 million in the bank right now. And it's like a little aggravating, if I'm going to be honest, because you
Yeah.
can beat them, but it's also motivating too, because you know that you can beat them. And that's, I
Yeah.
think, what drives me to keep working hard. It's certainly easy to get a little down on yourself because, you get older, guys are always coming out every year, a new batch of guys, and you kind of question like, why have I not made it yet? Blah blah blah. And as long as I'm doing what I need to do, I know that I can make it. So hopefully that'll come, this go at Q, and we can circle back after finals and talk about Bahamas and all that jazz. But for right now, I'm just kind of trying to stay present and not get ahead of myself and
Yeah.
just take care of business like it's another day, and let the process run its course.
No, that's awesome, man. I think there's a lot of wisdom in there, and I think, you know, maybe you do or don't realize it, but probably a lot of this stuff that you've gone through and experience is gonna you'll have the tools whenever you do eventually get there. You know, I'm hoping it's this time for you. I think it will be based on what I've kind of seen, but I think you'll have the tools to stay there. I think, maybe some guys can kind of get there and they'll go through the learning experiences that you've already had and then lose it. Whereas
Right.
now I kind of feel like you have to feel good that you're prepared, you're in a place where you have the mental fortitude and all the things. And you know I call it autonomy, right? Like you have such a level of autonomy over yourself and over your game and your mental state that I think it's gonna serve you well.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Definitely, it's a big week, and for guys that have played Q school or thinking about doing Q school, like this is the part where it's like make or break, because it is in a way an accomplishment just to get to second. There's a lot of good players that are vying for spots just to get to second, but if you don't get to finals, then it's really
Yeah.
it's a tough pill to swallow because it kind of sets the precedent for your upcoming season.
Yeah.
So I, like you said, like the good work that I put in this year and the consistent play, I think is only gonna benefit me in a 4 round, shootout versus just a 1 day, go try to make 10
Yeah.
birdies.
Yeah. No, I think that's awesome, man. I appreciate you coming on and taking the time. And one other thing I gotta say it just because I think it's funny. So one of my best friends, he's probably about 10 or 15 years older than you. His name is also Ryan Sullivan. We also call him Sully. We won the four ball together
Nice.
this year, and I just thought it was so funny you signed on
No,
with
I
Sully.
don't think I've met that Sully, but when I play at St. Albans, I always see his name on the
Yeah.
field. So I'd like to meet him at some point. Tell him I said what's up. And
We'll get it set up. It's he's one of my best friends. So
nice.
we'll get that set up. Maybe a little practice round or something will be fun.
There's
So
another guy, another good amateur, Skip, right?
yeah. Yep. Yep.
I played with him years ago. There's some good players out there in St. Louis.
Sneaky good tournament, I feel like. I don't know. I've traveled around a little bit because obviously I'm still amateur, but I've traveled around a little bit to like Cedar Rapids Open, which I don't know if you played that one or not, but that's
I think I played that one time. Yeah.
course is hard, man. Like
Yeah.
at least I thought it was hard. It was blowing like 35 both days, and
Well, shit, if it's blowing 35 anywhere, that golf becomes a lot harder.
yeah, I just remember being out there and thinking like someone shot 8 or 9 under, and it was one of the Shacky or Shaky brothers.
Alex or Carson
Y-
Shockey.
Yeah, whoever one of them had just qualified for a U.S. Open like a couple weeks before that, so obviously he was cooking. But I want to say I shot like even par or something, and he shot 9 under, and I was like, dude, I don't even understand how that's possible. Like it was just so dirty.
Yeah.
But yeah. anyways, just a testament to how good you boys are.
Yeah,
Um,
no doubt.
you know, good luck this week, man. We'll be rooting for you. I'll post some stuff up on the story with a little tracker and whatnot. So
Awesome.
let's
Yeah.
go. Wishing you well. So
Thanks for having me on. It was good. We'll touch base again soon.
cool. Sounds good, brother.
Later, AJ.
Appreciate you. Thanks.